It's been 2 years since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Biden is announcing more new measures targeting over 500 people and entities. Thousands of cell calls and text messages between DA Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade were exposed by a private investigator working for Trump's legal team in the election fraud case against him. Trump's lawyers want the judge to include them. The MyPillow CEO will have to pay millions in a lawsuit brought against him regarding his claims about the 2020 election. Billionaire real estate investor Grant Cardone orders his team to get out of New York City. He says investors need to look elsewhere following Trump's guilty verdict, arguing the political decision will hurt prices. Presidential candidate Nikki Haley says the U.S. can do better than two 80-year-old candidates. That's as she makes a last push in South Carolina to rally support ahead of tomorrow's primary. A former UN ambassador in the Trump administration says green energy is bad for the country. NTD's Jack Bradley speaks with Carla Sands during the CPAC to get her views on America's energy policy. The first American spacecraft to land on the moon in over 50 years, the feat achieved by the private sector for the first time ever. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The increase in natural gas exports to Europe and other foreign nations is a cause for concern for President Biden. Today, he is putting on hold new or pending applications for natural gas exports. President Biden has announced more than 500 new sanctions against Russia. That's as the war in Ukraine enters its third year, and in the wake of opposition figure Alexei Navalny's death. Biden said the sanctions target those involved in Navalny's imprisonment and Russia's financial sector, defense industry, and procurement networks. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who's already sanctioned, isn't directly targeted this time. The U.S. is also imposing export restrictions on around 100 entities supporting Russia's military efforts. The sanctions package is part of the administration's ongoing efforts to limit the Kremlin's revenues and hamper Moscow's ability to source materials for its war. The move is taken in partnership with other countries. The UK yesterday announced sanctions on more than 50 individuals and entities. The European Union on Wednesday approved its own package of sweeping sanctions, banning nearly 200 entities and individuals accused of aiding Moscow. A Minnesota judge is ordering MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell to pay $5 million to a man who participated in a Prove Mike Wrong challenge regarding the 2020 election. Wednesday's court ruling states that in 2021, Lindell put together a cyber symposium that let people try to disprove the validity of data he offered, claiming none of it reflects information relating to the November 2020 election. Robert Zeidman, a Republican who voted for Trump, testified that the files he received appeared to be a nonsensical string of characters. The ruling also made note that Zeidman provided a detailed 15-page report stating that each file he received lacked packet capture data, which records internet information in real time. Lindell must pay the $5 million plus interest accrued from April of last year in just 30 days. Lawyers in the disqualification case against Georgia DA Fani Willis are asking the judge to include cell phone and text message records between Willis and special counsel Nathan Wade. A private investigator working for Trump's legal team collected thousands of cell calls and text between the pair using an app called CellHawk. Both Wade and Willis testified last week that their relationship began in 2019. However, heavy cell and text communication between them began much earlier. Lawyers are trying to prove that Willis gained financially from public records, funds used to hire special counsel Wade. Lawyers for the former president are seeking to have Willis and Wade removed from prosecuting Trump for election fraud. Real estate investor Grant Cardone ordered his team to, quote, immediately discontinue all underwriting on New York City real estate. The billionaire investor says the risks outweigh the opportunities at this time. That recent political decisions will continue to deteriorate price and benefit states that don't have these challenges. He tells his team to focus on Texas and Florida. This comes right after former President Trump was fined $355 million for allegedly lying about his wealth to secure loans and make deals. Cardone explains to Fox News why the ruling has him leaving New York.
Every seller is always going to push the price value up based on the future, not based on fraud. Every loan application or every transaction, I'm going to go to a bank and say, hey, if I want to put a loan on this, they're going to require me to actually underwrite my property on the cash flow, the income of the property, and what valuation I believe that property's worth. The broker will also put a valuation on it, probably a third party.
Cardone says he originally wanted to start investing in New York City. He's been waiting 40 years. However, right after the ruling, he immediately changed his mind. Cardone Capital invests for 14,000 investors. He believes nobody will be investing big money in New York City commercial real estate following the ruling against Trump. Presidential candidate Nikki Haley rallied supporters in Myrtle Beach yesterday evening. This as her battle with former President Trump for the Republican nomination heads to South Carolina for Saturday's primary. NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us more.
During her Thursday night campaign rally, Haley was briefly interrupted by protesters while addressing the crowd.
Don't get upset when you see protesters like that, because my husband and a lot of men and women in the military sacrifice every day for his right to be able to do that.
Haley hammered away at the age of both President Biden and former President Trump, saying the U.S. can do better than two 80-year-old candidates.
We all know people over 75 that can run circles around us. And then we know Joe Biden.
A loss for Haley in her home state would deal a big blow to her already long odds. This after Trump swept contests in Iowa and New Hampshire. The former president has a commanding lead in state polls.
She's governor, but people don't like her too much, and she's hurting the party.
But Haley has vowed to press on regardless of Saturday's outcome.
I am not going anywhere.
Some prominent Republicans, including Congressman Byron Donalds, have called on Haley to drop out.
At this point, it doesn't matter. That's what I hope. Everybody knows this thing is over. She should. I think that's what's best for the party overall.
Senator Tim Scott voted early in the South Carolina primary on Thursday. The senator has been enthusiastically stumping for Trump in his home state ahead of Saturday's primary. Charleston resident and business owner Autumn Galvez says Trump has proven his mettle by continuing to battle despite multiple court cases against him.
I think he just has this big effect on Americans. I feel like he just stands up and fights for us no matter what. I think,
For Derek Zito, Haley's main appeal besides her youth is that she's not Trump.
I don't agree with all of her policies, but I would rather see her than either Trump or Biden, to be honest.
The latest Real Clear polling averages show Trump with a 25-point lead over Haley in South Carolina. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
With the South Carolina Republican primary coming up this weekend, NTD News will be covering all the action. We'll have a lot prepared for you, including special guests, on-the-ground coverage, and of course the Data Hub. Join Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides 2024 live this Saturday, February 24th at 6 p.m. Turning now to CPAC, a former UN ambassador says the concept of green energy is a sham. NTD's Jack Bradley sat down with Carla Sands, the Trump administration's ambassador to Denmark. She also says America has sustainable energy right beneath our feet.
Here we see a lot of push to move away from fossil fuels in the UN and even the US. What should we do here?
Well, so the so-called green energy is really a scam because it is made from critical minerals that have to be mined, tons and tons and tons of them, even to make one battery. Often it's made by slave child labor, like in the Congo, and then most of the mines and refining or processing is controlled and owned by the Chinese Communist Party. And so up to 90% of some of these critical minerals are controlled by the CCP. So to become a prisoner of a nation state that intends to dominate the world and put their controls over them is sort of a stupid idea. When, for instance, here in the United States, we have an abundance of hydrocarbons under our feet. We are never going to run out. We have more than Saudi Arabia and Russia. We have so much, we have enough to power our country and share with the rest of the world.
A lot of climate activists use the fact that that this oil, it will release a lot of carbon dioxide, and they're concerned about that. That's why they're shaping their policy after this. What do you say to that?
Well, so I hear what you're saying, but there's a couple of points. Number one is American natural gas and our use of it has actually been the reason that our CO2 emissions have gone down while our economy has grown. We've cleaned our air and lowered our CO2 emissions more than any other country in the world. And also, almost everything you see around you, including the mic I'm holding, are made from hydrocarbons or fossil fuels. It's in our clothing, it's in our makeup, our medicines, it's in our building materials. We rely on it. And if you remove it from society the way these, I will say, insane, anti-human people want to do, you put us back in caves.
As far as which type of energy is useful, we hear a lot about windmills, we hear from solar panels, but what about nuclear? That doesn't seem to be talked about as much as a way forward. What's wrong with that?
Jack, you're so right. Nuclear is the cleanest, greenest, most sustainable kind of energy. And we should embrace nuclear. And when you see European nations not building nuclear power plants, or the United States, our regulations make it almost impossible. I think the first nuclear plant to be opened in about 30 years just happened in the past year in Georgia. It's almost impossible. So we have to reduce regulation and embrace clean and sustainable. Modern nuclear is not like the old Soviet programs that they put at 3 Mile Island, the old Russian designs. So we want to embrace clean energy, and nuclear should be part of it. Mankind is capable of the greatest good and the most horrific things. But we do know that we need reliable, cheap energy in order to power our amazing lives, where we can turn a switch and have a light. That's only a blip in humankind that have had the benefits and the incredible living standards that we modern humans have in most of the world.
It's been said that these policies that are moving away from fossil fuel energy are benefiting China, here in the West.
100%. So China controls, like I said, the processing of these critical minerals that are needed in every solar panel, every electric car battery, and every windmill. And most of the windmill parts are actually made from hydrocarbons. They're made from fossil fuels. So it's not green and it's not sustainable. Eventually, the windmills fail and they have to be put somewhere, and they're being buried, miles and miles of them.
And you can find the complete interview on our website, ntd.com. Meanwhile, Jewish students on college campuses continue to face anti-Semitism and threats of violence amid the ongoing war between Israel and the Hamas terrorist group. Brooke Goldstein, the director of the Lawfare Project, talks about their lawsuit against Columbia University.
So we are very proud to represent a very brave Jewish student named Mackenzie Forrest in her groundbreaking civil rights lawsuit against Columbia University, which has become an unlawful and horrifically hostile environment on that campus for Jewish students. Especially after October the 7th, Columbia University has seen pro-Hamas protests run rampant throughout the school, even blocking access to some classrooms. The free speech rights of Jewish students are violated at Columbia University. The Jewish students are being physically assaulted, not just verbally, but physically assaulted. One student had his hand broken, and it's intolerable. So we are representing this student because she herself was also victimized by anti-Semitism. And what is so remarkable about this case is that when the school admitted that the campus was not safe for our client, they still refused her the ability to take her classes on Zoom, when taking classes on Zoom, especially after COVID, is something that's routinely accommodated. So we are representing her in this civil rights lawsuit against Columbia University, as well as other lawsuits we have, because I believe firmly that impact litigation, civil rights litigation, is the only way that the Jewish community is going to receive equal protection in this country. We are the oldest, most persecuted minority community in human history, and we are in the age of minority rights movement. So the time is now for our civil rights to be upheld.
You know, in Harvard, we're seeing similar lawsuits. The president just stepped down after allegations that they weren't doing enough to address the anti-Semitism on campus there. Why is it happening on college campuses?
Because what we're witnessing is the greatest subversive influence campaign that has ever taken place, that is being funded by foreign countries such as Qatar, which is the second largest state sponsor of terrorism. They are the primary sponsor, along with Iran, of the Hamas terrorist group. Spent billions and billions of dollars over the last 10 years that we know of, funding DEI departments, diversity, equity, inclusion, behind critical race theory, behind Middle Eastern studies departments, and infecting the schools, not just with anti-Israel rhetoric and ideas, but anti-American and anti-democratic ideas. And they want to destroy this country, and they're doing it from within. And unless there is a major course corrector, and that happens soon, unfortunately, 5 years from now, this country is going to look very, very different. So I urge everybody who is watching this program to take this issue seriously. If you have a student on a college campus, it doesn't even have to be an Ivy League school, pay close attention to what they are being taught.
Thank you very much for your insight here. Brooke Goldstein, founder of the Lawfare Project. Thank you very much.
Firefighters search for bodies and potential survivors in a charred apartment block in an affluent neighborhood in Valencia, Spain. More than a dozen are thought to be missing. France's latest bill sparks controversy as it seeks to control health narratives and silence dissenting voices labeled as Gurus 2.0. The first American spacecraft to land on the moon in over 50 years. The feat achieved by the private sector for the first time ever, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. A last-minute glitch threatened to doom a safe touchdown. That and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow. Towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Today, fire investigators are trying to figure out the exact cause of a deadly apartment building fire. Flames tore through the structure in eastern Spain yesterday, killing 11 with dozens of people missing. NTD's Lauren Anthony has the latest.
The blaze spread rapidly, in part due to strong winds that whipped up the flames. But one insurance expert said a contributor might also have been the use of a plastic material on the building's facade. Visiting the scene on Friday, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said residents had lost everything in a matter of minutes. Emergency services said the fire started on Thursday evening on the 4th floor of the block in an affluent neighborhood of Spain's third largest city. Witnesses said the fire took just half an hour to engulf the building in El Campanar. Panicked residents rushed to balconies to plead for help as burning embers fell to the sidewalk below. The building, comprised of 2 towers linked by what its developers described as a panoramic lift, had several dozen flats. Officials say it was completed in 2008. A 2007 promotional video by the building's developer highlighted the innovative material used to clad the building's exterior, which passed rigorous quality checks. A deadly fire in West London's Grenfell Tower apartment block in 2017 killed an estimated 80 people. The blaze there was caused by an electrical fault, but its rapid spread was blamed on the use of highly flammable external cladding.
A new bill in France aims to tighten control on health narratives, planning to suppress dissenting voices labeled as Gurus 2.0. NTD's France correspondent David Vives speaks to a journalist who says the bill is designed to silence any oppositions to the government's narratives.
The French Parliament recently greenlit a bill aimed at combating what it labels Gurus 2.0 and are targeting those promoting questionable health practices. Opposition voices, including those from the medical community, argue the law might be a tool to suppress legitimate scientific debates, creating an atmosphere where there is zero toleration for dissenting opinions. According to author Yvan Rioufol, there were a certain number of government narratives during the COVID-19 crisis that turned out to be false. Opposition from the medical field expressed concerns about government measures to manage the pandemic, such as lockdowns and vaccinations.
We realized that the government's slogan, "Everyone vaccinate, everyone protect," had turned out to be fake news. And for having shaken these official truths, and for having been heard by a large part of the population. Of course, science can make mistakes. In fact, it was wrong first of all about sanitary confinement. It was wrong about the efficacy of vaccines. And all this has been said in many of the international press.
A recent global study shows the harmful side effects of COVID mRNA vaccines like inflammation conditions. The study published by Global Vaccine Data Network, examining 99 million cases across 8 countries, shows that there is a greater risk of developing a medical condition in various periods after getting a vaccine compared with before the vaccine became available. Rioufol says while these observations have been made before by researchers in France, there is serious concerns the new French bill would suppress any voice from the medical field going against the government's narratives in the future.
Well, the government decided that it didn't want these dissident words anymore, and so this article has been written to prohibit these kinds of positions and to impose a state truth. The government is trying to impose an official narrative. It is trying to impose rules of confinement, sanitary confinements, but now also intellectual confinements, confinement of opinion.
David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Florida lawmakers are proposing a law that restricts underage children from accessing social media apps. The Florida House easily passed legislation yesterday creating some of the strictest social media rules in the U.S. The bill cuts off kids under the age of 16 from using many platforms. Both chambers have passed the bill now, so Governor Ron DeSantis may be forced to make a decision soon, even though he has some concerns over the bill. He has about 2 weeks to either sign or veto it before lawmakers leave on break. The measure would ban anyone under 16 from creating an account, and social media companies would have to terminate accounts for users under 16 in Florida. A half a century later since the Apollo lunar landing, a U.S.-made spacecraft has touched down on the moon once again. This is a historic moment. It is the first commercial spacecraft to soft land on the moon. Intuitive Machines' IM-1 lander, also called Odysseus, landed at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday. As it approached the surface of the moon, Odysseus lost contact with NASA, resulting in several anxious minutes for those who worked on the joint project. But after approximately 15 minutes of searching, officials confirmed that they were once again receiving signals from the spacecraft. While it was a private mission, NASA paid Intuitive Machines $118 million to deliver 6 instruments to the moon. And thank you very much for watching NTD Newsroom. Have a nice weekend.